Question of priorities and choices. Which matters more? Vaccinating everybody in the UK first or starting to send vaccinations around the world?
Look, it's important when you're outside of government not to advocate something you know you wouldn't do inside government.
Exactly.
So, the priority will always be first to get your own country vaccinated, and we're doing that. What we're saying is you won't be able to vaccinate the whole world in 2021. You will be able to do it, as Boris Johnson's saying today, by the end of 2022. But what you could do by the end of this year is vaccinate the most vulnerable. And that means frontline healthcare workers, the elderly, and those around big urban conurbations. And the reason for doing that is enlightened self-interest. It's not humanitarian simply. It's because it helps us to stop the disease spreading.
So in your view, Boris Johnson should go to the G7 and say, we're going to vaccinate everybody in the UK first, but then we're going to send as much vaccines as possible around the world.
Yes, and I think that's what they will do. I mean, look, you can't be absolute about this. There may be some vaccine that we can ship out in advance of that, But no, the reality is countries, your government's obliged to look after your own people. But in order to get this vaccination of the world, by the way, and we set this out in a paper recently, a very good independent scientific experts report too for the G7, just published a few days back. To do this properly, however, you're going to need to keep production going. You're going to need to make sure that countries have the capacity to absorb and to vaccinate, because many of them presently don't. And you're going to have to make sure you overcome the hesitancy about vaccines.
You have been following the detail all the way through this pandemic very closely. Do you think it originated in a wet market or from a lab? Go on.
I've literally no idea.
So it could have come from a lab?
Well, I think, look, I know no more than you know or anyone reading the newspapers. I mean, I think you just got to keep an open mind on it. But it's not something, I haven't really focused on that, to be absolutely frank, because I'm not an expert on that type of thing, and I just don't know. But what I do know is that if we're going to face this situation in the future, we're going to have to create a global infrastructure to deal with future pandemics, because I think what has happened to us is probably part of a change that is going to be just normal life for the foreseeable future.
Tony Blair, it's been a pleasure talking to you. Thanks very much indeed for coming in. Now then, joining me